Hey guys, Harrison1 back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to episode 15 of the Online Racer, Formula 1 2013 online multiplayer gameplay featuring real-world Formula 1 topics worth talking about. Now this one's kind of loosely related to Formula 1. This one can, pardon me, could also kind of be a Dre Talks if I really wanted it to be, but I haven't really had a decent subject for a Dre Talks in quite some time. But I'll get to that later. The thing is that I wanted to make this video as kind of a mini response in a way. For those guys that don't know, Pole Position P1 are a great YouTube channel. They focus all about all forms of motorsport, Formula 1, MotoGP, rallying, etc, etc. They do a great job there covering motorsport journalism down there. They put up a video yesterday talking as a debate to get fans talking, like, is Sebastian Vettel killing Formula 1 fans? Now, I don't think any of Formula 1 fans are driving themselves to suicide because one guy keeps winning. Okay, that was a bad joke, but you get my point. They were saying, is Vettel's reign of current dominance the reason why many people are turning off? Now, I kind of already mentioned this in episode 8 of the Online Racer. It was a video I made in November called, Is Vettel Making Formula 1 Boring? And this was just before the season finale in Brazil last year, talking about whether Vettel's current streak of 8 wins in a row is going to turn people off and whether it's off-putting for Formula 1 fans. And I got some great responses to that video, and there were some great responses on that pole position video as well, which kind of made me want to talk about this a little bit. So to answer it simply, is Vettel turning fans away? The answer to that question is kind of yes. It's yes, but there's an asterisk next to the yes, because it's not quite as simple as that. I know they made their leading point that there was a 10% drop in Formula 1 viewers worldwide this past year, down I think 50 million, from 500 million viewers in 2012 to 450 million in 2013. Now people will say, oh, you know, Pole Position tried to go with that angle as the way there was a 10% drop, and say, oh, was it Vettel? Well, the bigger reason was more to do with China and France. They both changed their networks for Formula 1, and out of the 50 million loss, 47 million of that was China and France, and because they changed their networks around. China, as you know, is probably it actually is the world's most populated country. Over 1.5 billion people live there. So if there's going to be a network change, it's going to have a large effect because the country is so big. 50 million into 1.5 billion isn't very much. It's about 3 or 4%. But that can accommodate for a large-scale drop. So it's not quite as simple as, oh, it was Vettel's fault. Funnily enough, TV ratings in the UK for Formula 1 actually went up this year, despite Vettel's reign of terror in the second half of the season. More people were watching BBC's F1 coverage live and the extended highlights, even when they don't have the live races. And if anything, Sky had small increases as well for their second season. Many people being forced to make the switch because they want to see Formula 1 races live, and, you know, the BBC not having a large amount of live rights is always going to be a problem. But that's the fan drops explained. It's not quite as simple as, oh, people got bored. I'm sure that factors in somewhat, but you've also got to consider hardcore fans of Formula 1 are never going to stop watching, no matter who wins. Mainly because most hardcore Formula 1 fans have been watching for such a long time, adults mainly, that they've already seen reigns of dominance happen in Formula 1. Like I mentioned this before, but Schumacher's dominant run from 2000 to 2004 put a lot of people off, but a lot of people stuck around and watched as well. They've probably already seen one reign of dominance in Formula 1, so it's not that surprising that another one has happened. If anything, we were quite lucky to have a period between 2006 and 2010 where we had 5 straight years with 5 different world champions. 2006, Fernando Alonso. 2007, Kimi Raikkonen. 2008, Lewis Hamilton. 2009, Jenson Button. 2010, Sebastian Vettel. So, you see my point. That has not happened since 1982, where we had a stretch that included Prost, Scheckter, Alan Jones, and Nelson Piquet, and Keke Rosberg ending that in 1982. So it's been over 30 years since we've seen 5 different world champions in consecutive years. So what that that period was kind of a freak era in Formula 1. It doesn't happen very often at all. It's a sport where dominance tends to happen a lot. And I've always said it, the casual fan is the biggest problem here. Like, it happens in any sport. It happens in almost any kind of TV-related industry we're in now. There will always be a certain baseline of fans that will tune in to watch every episode no matter what. It could be 2 hours of a dancing turd on television, a bit like TNA wrestling, but people will still watch it no matter what happens. What Bernie has been so infatuated with over the years has clearly been the casual fan, the channel hoppers, the people with only a minor interest that will hopefully watch if there's something exciting going on. People that might watch Twitter and say, oh, this is happening, so they'll quickly tune into BBC or Sky to see what's going on. A lot of casual fans have a favourite driver, and maybe they'll only watch if their favourite driver is winning, like a Fernando Alonso, a Sebastian Vettel, a Lewis Hamilton, a Jenson Button, etc., etc. It could be any top-level driver, really. And a lot of hardcore fans and a lot of casual fans who watch part-time do have a favourite driver. Even one of my best friends is a hardcore, devout Felipe Massa fan, and she hasn't got much of a reason to watch, but I guess that counts, right? But you see my point. A lot of casual fans will only tune in for one specific driver because that's the one driver they support, whether it be Vettel, Alonso, Hamilton, Raikkonen, etc., etc. And this isn't a new thing. This isn't just a Formula 1 thing. I know for a fact I can use many examples in sport that people will, that only watch for a particular person. I know for a fact that a lot of snooker fans aren't really snooker fans. They only watch when Ronnie O'Sullivan is winning. I know very few people that actually watch snooker all year round on the calendar whenever the major events like the Masters or the UK Championship or the World Championship roll around. They'll only watch when Ronnie O'Sullivan's on the TV because he's such an outstanding player and such an incredible talent when it comes to snooker that they'll only watch when he's on the table because he makes the sport so interesting. Formula 1 hasn't really got that kind of character. Their top guy, Sebastian Vettel, is a guy that's very quiet, a guy that keeps a lot of his personal life private. He's not in the public eye very often, unlike a certain Lewis Hamilton, for example. Again, I made the comparison in the Hamilton Conundrum episode, and I think it'll be very hard for people to deny. He's probably the most media-savvy member of the Formula 1 family we know. Him and Jenson Button, I'd say, are the top two. Button more from an advertising standpoint because he's so marketable, like the face of Santander, alongside Rory McIlroy and Jessica Ennis-Hill, or when he used to do the Head and Shoulders commercials back a couple of years ago. Those were funny. But you see my point. Like, he's not in the public eye. A lot of people think he's boring. A lot of people don't see what he's really like because he doesn't talk to the media very often, and he's not like Kimi Räikkönen in the sense of he's not kind of got this renegade kind of character about him. People know that Kimi Räikkönen's a bit of a dick. He doesn't talk very much. He's shoved over cameramen in the past. He's not very talkative. He's very blunt. He's very to the point. He's a bit rude on occasion. People like that badass kind of renegade kind of character now and again. Vettel isn't really like that. He's not a particularly rude person. If anything, he's actually quite entertaining outside of interviews and whatnot. But he's not a very marketable person. He's not exactly a poster boy for Formula 1, really. And obviously things like Multi-21 last year didn't help even more with that kind of reputation because of the booze he got last season. But like I said, casual fans, the ones that are flicking through the channels, are not going to stop and watch Formula 1 if one guy keeps winning all the time. But that's the weird thing about Formula 1. It's not a conventional sport, because if one guy keeps winning in Formula 1, they change the rules around. Happened in 2005 with Michael Schumacher, and it happened again in 2013 or 2014 now with the new car designs and whatnot. Bernie doesn't like it when one guy keeps winning. He's always come out and said he wants the title to go around a little bit because he knows that's good for casual fans, because the unpredictability of the sport would make things interesting. That was at its prime during 2012 when we had, like I said before, the 7 different winners in 7 different races from 6 different teams. That was when casual fans I know were tuning in even when they don't normally watch Formula 1 because it was exciting. We didn't know who wins. And like I said before, the casual fans are the kind of people that might only be dedicated to one thing, like I said with Ronnie O'Sullivan in snooker as an example. I'll give you a couple more examples. The Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was this past Sunday. Over 600,000 people in the UK watched it, and I guarantee you at least half of those viewers don't watch the NFL during the regular season, or even during the playoffs. Like, Channel 4 had every Sunday night football game live across the regular season, and on average they were only getting about 150,000 people watching, but they got 600,000, a 400% increase during the Super Bowl. Now, like I said, I guarantee you, how many of those guys were watching during the regular season? Guessing not very many. They tune in specifically because of the spectacle of the Super Bowl, because, you know, of all the media attention, all the commercials, the halftime show in this year with Bruno Mars and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, that kind of thing. WrestleMania is another prime example, because I'm a wrestling fan. They brought back Batista because he's the kind of guy that if somebody flicks through the channels and they see Batista on their TV, they'll recognise him and they'll stop and they'll keep watching. The same thing with The Rock, The Undertaker, many of the part-time talent, which is kind of why CM Punk walked away the other day. Which obviously got a lot of people talking. He didn't like the fact that part-timers got the push around WrestleMania. But the thing is, WrestleMania is built for the casual fan. They're built for the kind of wrestling fan that only has a vague interest and will watch their one event for the year, or just to see how things are going out of curiosity, because they love the spectacle of WrestleMania, seeing guys like John Cena once a year, or The Undertaker, and they can't be asked to follow it every single week. That's why the average WWE pay-per-view gets about 200,000 buys, and the last 3 WrestleManias have had well over 1 million. You know, the only kind of person that's getting those kind of pay-per-view draws is when Floyd Mayweather fights in boxing, or whenever there's a massive UFC card with like Brock Lesnar on it, because Brock Lesnar was a huge pay-per-view draw when he was fighting in the UFC. So, you see what I mean? The power of the casual sports fan is something that's very interesting, and that's something that Bernie has clearly seen from other people like Vince McMahon, who runs the WWE, Dana White, who runs the UFC, Roger Goodell, you know, obviously NFL commissioner, about capturing that one-off spectacle, like a World Cup final or a Super Bowl, etc. You know, a Formula 1 season finale doesn't have that kind of appeal, so obviously he's trying to change things around to make things more entertaining. So, is Vettel killing off the casual fan? To a degree, but it's not quite as simple as that. The way Formula 1 is structured and calibrated often can taint things a little bit. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, as always. Did you see Pole Position's video? What did you make? Is Vettel killing off the fans? Is the casual sports fan got that much power? Or am I talking out of my butthole here? I don't know. You guys tell me. I'd love to hear you guys' take as always. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys next time. I've been Harrison101. Thanks for watching, and sayonara.